The Kia Stinger finished up production about 3 years ago. It was about April 2023. And funny enough, that's about how long I've owned my 2022 High Chroma Red version right here. Well, you know what they say, third time's a charm, as this is the third time I'll be trying to do a proper review of my Kia Stinger GT. This, of course, is the facelifted model, which was introduced around 2021. Overall, design-wise, it's not too different. Kia pretty much nailing it with its initial release in 2017. The keen-eyed, though, might notice the different wheels, but from the front at least, and the side profile, there are not too many changes. Of course, design-wise, it's hard to deny that the Kia Stinger is quite a good-looking car. And I may be biased, but I don't think there's too many people who disagree with that. The Stinger and the Cerato as well were among the last of the cars to feature the Tiger Nose grille, the Stinger being probably one of the best examples of that design philosophy. Very aggressive front area here, the rear slung cabin, and the proportions overall are really quite good. It seems they've lost their way in recent years, which is a bit of a shame. So of course, one of the bigger changes on the exterior is the new wheel for the facelift, and I'll admit I was more of a fan of the 5-spoke version of the pre-facelift. It just felt a bit more sporty. I think what Kia have gone for here is more of a Euro style premium look. Definitely have seen a similar style of wheel on BMWs and Porsches, things like that. And you know, I've got to say it has kind of grown on me over time. Of course, we have these functional vents up from the front through to the brakes and out the side there, with some big Brembos up front as well. But no reviewer can help themselves but note that the bonnet vents are indeed fake. And look, yes, that might be a bit of a shame. There is not really any way to make them functional because a crash bar goes through the bonnet underneath there. But I do feel that without them, the bonnet would just be a big slab of boring metal, so I think it does add a bit of character to the car. Around the back is where the updates to the facelift model are probably the most obvious. We have a completely updated taillight cluster, whereas the previous model had a Maserati outline kind of style. The new version has a single connected light bar across the 3 pieces. And we have enlarged exhaust tips in the bottom here, which definitely stand out. Badges and things were updated throughout the model run as well. You can get a 21 and I think some early 22 models with the oval Kia badge in the middle. And some of the other Stingers had a centralized Stinger badge instead of the Kia badge. In fact, this model also gets the updated GT logo on the back, replacing the stylized version that was used on the previous models. We do have this bit of fake venting at the back here as well to continue that theme, and I know that this red reflector in the side is a little bit of a concern for some people looking at it. On a red car it doesn't stand out so bad, but I have also got used to it and I don't mind it again. There's also a bit of an inbuilt spoiler in the deck lid that's kind of visible, and the light bar kind of mimics that at night too. Another thing to appreciate with the Kia Stinger is that by key, through proximity, the mirrors can open, and the boot can also open just by your presence near the rear. Opening up to 406 litres, being a hatchback too, there's quite a lot of usable space in there, and you can adjust the height of how high the boot lid opens. But what I love is that when your hands are full of shopping or luggage or whatever, just stand near the back and it'll open for you. No weird leg sweeping required either, which has never worked for me in other cars. It is quite a large and usable area. You can remove the parcel shelf. There's a space saver under the floor and the batteries in the boot as well. We do have a 60-40 split, so from 406 litres we can open up to about 1114 with the second row folded down. Of course, it is a really practical car given the size of it and its intent as a family grand tourer. Also, on the note of the key fob, let's just take a moment to appreciate that this was the car that brought in the detonator style Kia key. You just press that button and she locks, but it also does have your standard unlock, hold, and you can open and close the boot through this button too. But this was also, I think, one of the cars that introduced the remote start function. Which will leave the car running for a minute or so, but once you open a door, You only have about 30 seconds to get in before that does stop. But it is good for warming the car up, getting the air conditioning going before you get in on a hot day, that sort of thing. And this does preempt what Hyundai, Kia, and even Genesis implemented on cars later on, where you could actually pilot the car backwards or forwards into or out of a tight space or something like that. Still, it is a handy feature. All right, so the front of the Kia Stinger, it's quite a nice place to be sitting. The seat's currently in its welcome mode, so it's a bit further back than I would normally have it. And once you start the car up, it moves into its pre-assigned position. There are 2 memory functions, so it's good if you have, you know, his and hers or something like that. Steering wheel's quite nice. I mean, everything's pretty good in here, and being the GT, it's fully appointed. We have a really decent Harman Kardon stereo. I forget, there's 12 or 15 speakers, but it sounds really good. Subwoofers are actually under the front seats here. Of course, there's full electric adjustment of the seats, and even though it's in its lowest sitting position, I do often find that the rear view mirror just needs to be adjusted up just that little bit, for me anyway. It could just be how my body is or whatever, but yeah, I just find that is a little bit of an issue. But visibility all round is pretty good. I do find that looking out the rear window, whilst I can see, I don't have any idea of positioning the car, and so thankfully it does have 360 cameras, all the front and rear sensors and things like that to help you with that. The updated model did get the 10.25 inch screen over the 8 inch that used to be in here, which had thick plastic bezels. It just looked old, small and dated. And of course, this is from a generation where we still had a separate instrument cluster rather than one massive screen across the entire dashboard, which we're seeing nowadays. You have the 3 round air conditioning vents in the center there, which kind of mimics Mercedes from some of the cars of the time. But you know, lots of tactile buttons still. Whilst in the middle there still is a touch screen, you can still perform all your functions with dials and buttons and things like that, which is refreshing. Up front, there is a 12-volt socket as well, a USB-A port and a wireless phone charger, but you do need to plug your phone in to gain access to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Center console's reasonable. You can put enough stuff in there. Two cup holders in the center's decent enough. One thing about the interior though, whilst they've kind of gone minimal on the piano black, just a few touches here and there, this brushed metal silver piece in the middle, you do have to be careful of, because when putting your seatbelt on it, it can accidentally hit that area, and whatever it's made of is quite soft, and I have unfortunately chipped it a little bit by doing that. So just beware of that, and tell your passenger too, because hitting that with anything can do damage over time, and that's something you're probably not going to want to do. And of course, whilst these are Nappa leather seats, it is wonderful that they are heated and ventilated, particularly in those Australian summers. The ventilation is quite welcomed and it works pretty well, I've got to say. The other thing about the seats is that the front driver's seat does bolster up a bit more when you put the car into sport mode. And whilst I'm not after massage functions or anything like that, I wouldn't mind if the passenger seat did that as well. Maybe I need to source a driver's seat from a left-hand drive market car and see if we can do that. Now, admittedly, the back of my own car is not somewhere I sit very often. The driver's seat has come back into its welcome mode, so it is actually a lot further back than it would be normally. So my toes are a little pinched here to get underneath. I mean, I do have some leg room thanks to these minor cutouts in the seat in front, but it is a bit cozy back here. Bear in mind, this Kia Stinger is actually about 10 centimeters longer than its cousin, the Genesis G70, so I don't know how they'd go back there in one of those cars. However, the seat is comfortable. This part of the roof, because of the sloping hatchback, is a little bit encroaching on my head. I'm 182 centimeters tall. I can feel my hair is just about in the roof lining, but I think on a trip of medium length, I probably wouldn't be doing too bad. With the seat a bit further forward, at least I could stretch out a bit more. There is climate control of sorts back here in that you can adjust the fan from a cooler or a warmer setting. There are 2 air conditioning dials back here that can be adjusted, and a 12-volt socket, as well as a USB-A port. There is a big transmission tunnel, obviously, being that this is a rear-wheel drive car, so having 5 people in this car could be a little bit of an issue, but we've had no problems obviously fitting a child's seat in the back here with plenty of room for the younger kids. There is a center armrest with a couple of cup holders, no pass through to the boot, and of course the seats can be folded down as well. But you know, it's nice back here still. So like I said, I don't get to sit back here very often, so you know, map pockets for whatever reason you'd need those there, but yeah, it works. Of course, under the bonnet is the heart of the Kia Stinger GT, and the reason you go for the GT, the 3.3 litre twin turbocharged V6, the Lambda 2. Somehow they eked 2 more kilowatts out of the facelifted models. I think it was through some changes to the exhaust system, but we have 274 kilowatts and 510 newton meters of torque. The car is good for an official 0 to 100 in about 4.9 seconds, and you can use launch control to attain that. And the car has plenty of poke and get up and go in the right drive mode. The only thing with turbos within the Hyundai Kia group is that servicing does come that little bit quicker. Whilst it is still 12 months, the mileage on them is every 10,000 Ks. And I've noticed that on all turbo models within the Hyundai Kia group. So do be aware of that. I've been lucky enough to be able to kind of average 10,000 Ks a year, but you know, it can creep up on you a little quicker if you're used to doing a few more Ks. However, servicing through Kia hasn't been that big of an issue. They've been pretty good when it comes to warranty things. Not that I've had too many big issues with this car so far. So yeah, I think there's that. And you've certainly got a decent dealer network in Kia. 7-year warranty is a good thing. And each time you service with a Kia dealership, they add a year of roadside assistance on for you as well. And so there's, you know, some good things that you'll be getting there. The Stinger is now only just coming into a time where the early models warranties will be running out, but you know, if you pick up a 22 or a 23 model, you'll still have 3 to 4 years of servicing left on them, at least at the time that I'm recording this. All right, so driving a 2022 Kia Stinger GT. Look, most of the time I'm in comfort mode. It is a bit of a lazy mode to be in, but for that you get a little bit more fuel economy, and you don't really need to be in sport mode or custom, depending how you've set that up, all the time. It's good enough just for getting around, but yeah, you won't find the pickup is always there. So if you want to go for a pass, generally you're going to want to change your drive mode into sport again. Of course, it keeps the suspension softer, which is a good thing on our less than perfect roads. Sport mode has a tendency to be quite harsh, and yeah, you'll really notice it. But when you're in for a more enthusiastic drive, sport mode is kind of where you want to be. So between the different drive modes, there are other ones. Obviously, there's Smart, which I've never really used, but it's designed to pick up and learn how you drive and change settings accordingly. There's Eco, which is, as the name suggests, the most economical mode, but also you're just really not going to be getting much out of the car. Again, there's Comfort. I think that's your general all-rounder, the one that most people would be using. And then there's Sport. And the thing about Sport is it opens up the exhaust valves, it tightens up the suspension a bit, and it will even increase the bolstering on your seats. The good mode that I've got is Custom, which is basically sport on everything except the suspension. And as we come here, you can hear the exhaust valves have opened just a little. I only got a 60 zone, but you do hear more of that V6 engine note. There is a decent engine note. Most people will say it's a V6, so you're not going to expect too much out of it. You do have paddle shifters behind the wheel here, which allows you to alter gears as you like. Sometimes it will change up for you though, so it won't always hold the gear that you're in. I think in sport mode it does, but it does seem to be a little bit variable sometimes. But otherwise here, as you can hear, the noise levels are pretty tame. It's a good all-round cruiser. It's in the name, it is a Grand Tourer after all, and it will lap up those long distance trips really, really well. Fuel economy can range depending on how you drive it. You'll be in the low teens if you drive it enthusiastically, or higher. But on longer trips, and we have road tripped this interstate, we've seen it down into the sixes, just as it takes kilometre for kilometre and is just chewing through no fuel at all. Now on the fuel debate, given the kind of world situation we're in right now, obviously the best fuel that you can put into it here in Australia is 98 octane, and that's pretty much what I've done. But people have said that you can put 91. I'm pretty sure 95 is the recommended on the fuel cap. So just be aware of that. But this is a twin turbo V6, so it's not like you're going to be wanting to put ethanol or some weaker blend. Good visibility is really good. You do have some fat B and C pillars, but nothing too bad. The mirrors are a decent size. I've seen that some people have suggested that they might be a bit small. I've never really had an issue with them, and they do have the blind spot monitors in them. Of course, this being the facelift version also has the inbuilt cameras, so that you have the blind spot cameras will appear in the center dash, which is a really, really nifty feature, I've got to say. This interior, you know, it's a decent quality for the price that you're paying, I think. I'm not going to complain about cheap materials in here, mainly because there's not many. You got to remember, this is a Kia. This was their halo car before they went into all the weird angled shapes and things like that of their EVs. And you know, Kia now is a very different looking brand than it was when the Stinger and the Cerato were out. The suspension setup's really good. Like it holds up really well for this sort of car. It's just tuned just right for our conditions, I think. You have auto adaptive headlights. They do follow around corners at night. Did find that on longer road trips they are a little low, which is a little bit frustrating when you're on a long drive and you're trying to watch out for wildlife and things like that. Something we definitely noted. The adaptive cruise control is quite good. I would only say that lane keep assist is probably the annoying safety feature for this car, and it has come up in a lot of reviews too. I definitely do find it on more winding roads. It just you know, the interference through the wheel. Thankfully you can turn it off. It's currently not turned off, so I'm probably going to find that I'm going to wish that I did that. There is an emergency braking system. Like if it detects a car in front of you, it will alert you first, but then it can also intervene with brakes. And we do have a good head-up display as well. Okay, now we're coming into the mountain section. I'm going to go into sport, so we got the tighter suspension setup here. Like I said, the seats do hug you now, and let's just see how we go as we come into the Blue Mountains here. It's a lovely day. Let's just see. I've not taken the Stinger through here yet, so I'm kind of excited to see how she goes on this, for me, a familiar stretch of road with all the other review cars that I've had. Yeah, lane keep assist's tugging at me a little bit there, but well, I think I made an omelette in the boot there with some of my stuff rolling around, but she did pretty good. It's interesting how the back sort of tries to tuck in, and yeah, how it felt around some of those corners, but for a big car, I think it did pretty well. Now, you know me, I'm going to go back down again. That actually wasn't too bad. She did really well. I have to always remember that sport mode is really going to muck the suspension up, but otherwise, yeah, pretty happy with that. And so yeah, the front sensors there will pick up when you're near the ground, which is kind of handy. Let's go up here. So I'll leave it in auto this time. That way I can talk. But yeah, the lane keep assist kind of has been getting in the way a little bit, which is not really ideal, but like I said, you can turn it off. I'm going to end up changing gears. And yeah, but just climbing up through these hills, or even on the descent, it just tucks in. You know what the car's going to do. You can feel, you know, the input's pretty good. Like, it's point, shoot, you just, you know, hold off on the power obviously until you're ready, and you know, it gets about no fuss. The only change I've made to this car since I've got it is that she needed a new set of tires, so she's wearing Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires instead of normal Pilot Sport 4. Both good tires, and yeah, they hold up fairly well in these conditions, obviously. Yeah, so like the grip is there, and I just need to remember these corners really. It's more my memory of getting around this part. I haven't been here in a little while, I'll admit. But, you know, the throttle response is there. And we're catching traffic, so that's okay. I've already had a fun run up and down here before, and you can just, yeah, it's just hooking in. It's very predictable. And we'll settle down here. I'll put it back into drive. Yeah, okay. You do have the reversing camera, 360 view, and active guides, which is really helpful. And not only that, you can activate the cameras to show you all different surround, so you can view the front. I like this one where it shows you what's out either side of the from the mirrors, so you can not damage your wheels. And yeah, I find that really handy too. You can see the blind spot monitor comes up there when you activate the indicators, and you have a bunch of different displays. I like the one with the gauges. It shows you things from your oil temperature, how much torque you're generating, and the PSI of the turbos. Kind of cool seeing that in action when you're driving enthusiastically. You also have obviously your fuel stats, so, and you can cycle through different things there as well. You have a compass, and you have an attention monitor, so it will tell you there, especially on long drives, you'll see that little semicircle will kind of start going down, and when cruise control is activated, there's this display as well that comes up showing you all things. You have the tire pressure monitors, and also you can just have your digital speedo on there too. But in addition to that, you do have a head-up display which can take over some of that information for you. I think it might also be a GPS thing within the inbuilt navigation, in that it will pick up where school zones are. Although, for example, our local school where my daughter goes, it will detect the school zone well outside and on streets that actually aren't in the school zone, if that makes any sense. And whilst most people might plug their phones in, so it is wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, it also knows where most, or I suppose it depends on how up-to-date your map software is, which you do get free updates for 10 years from the purchase of the car. But yeah, it will notify you of where speed cameras, fixed speed cameras and fixed red light cameras are. We do have an inbuilt satellite navigation system from Kia, and it is not bad. Look, I'm not gonna lie, this interface doesn't look as good as what Apple and Android offer. But we were using it once, and it knew when we passed into an average speed camera zone how long that zone was, and it was calculating our average speed based on how we were traveling. And I just found, you know, most people aren't going to find that because they're going to be using their own apps, but I just thought that was such a really cool feature. So yeah, sometimes it's worth checking out the default system, you know, and when I have it in my normal view here, it's in this faded out kind of view, so it's kind of always on. When you get into more built up areas like the cities, 3D buildings will actually start to appear as well. So whoever Kia have got doing their map system they're doing a pretty good job. Now back to the display, because of course we're in this age where everything has gone screen related, particularly with the onslaught of EVs. So all your buttons along here, you know, can appreciate them. Again, I've seen some reviewers have commented that they feel that some of this is cheap, but in today's world where everything's behind an iPad stuck to the dashboard, this is actually refreshing. And I do find, obviously I've been quite fortunate to have reviewed a bunch of cars for Exhaust Notes. The Stinger is still very much a car that has everything that you want and makes you still want to drive it. Not only that, God, is it a good looking car still in whatever color you've got. And I was actually surprised when I had a look through the brochure at how many colors were available, because nowadays when I'm reviewing cars, it's like, oh, you have a choice of 4 colors and they're all shades of gray. But the Stinger came out in such a range of different and bright colors, and it might go with the kind of car that it was again, but obviously you had your standouts like Federation Orange and Sunset Yellow for the really early models, which had a few defects, and Kia fixed those, but then also discontinued the color. You've got the Micro Blue, you've got Snow White Pearl. I mean, for a white, that's a really nice shade of white. There was the ceramic silver, or a ceramic grey, which is like the Nardo grey from Audi and the European colours. Of course, there was Aurora Black Pearl, but if you didn't quite want black, you could also get Pantera Metal. In the blues, I think I mentioned Micro Blue, but you could also get Deep Chroma Blue, which was this really dark purpley hue, and it looked really good with the red leather interior. I think I've gone through them all, but then there's, of course, High Chroma Red, which was on a lot of the promotional advertising and stuff, and really was the color for me. I think I've mentioned before, I always wanted a red car, even for my last car, and then for this, the Stinger, particularly when you see it in the light, it's like nothing else, in my opinion. Yeah, so with that, you could get the GTs all came with leather. I think, in fact, all Stingers came with leather, and obviously there was the black option, and there was red for most colors. Now, interestingly, everyone will tell you that you could not get a red leather interior with a red car in Australia, but at least one exists in Australia, and they have been on our forums and are very proud of the fact that they managed to get it. Now, in my opinion, that's a lot of red, but if you've got the only one, I think that's kind of cool anyway. Yeah, so you could get the red on most colors. From what I've read, I believe you couldn't get it on Micro Blue and or yellow or orange as well, but I'm not sure on that. There were some limited edition versions released as well. In the 4-cylinder, you could get the Rafa edition, which was, I don't know, some collaboration with the Tennis Association, and Rafa Nadal signed a bunch of 4-cylinder Stingers, which I think came in Deep Chroma Blue, and they had like an orange side stripe kit on them. But they were individually numbered as well. In the GTs, around 2019, 2020, you could get the Night Sky or the Carbon editions, and I think those were limited to the Micro Blues or the Aurora Black, and would come with a cream or a white leather interior, which was really nice actually, and an option that I had considered if I couldn't quite make it work for a 21 update model. I think Deep Chroma Blue you could also get with the white leather interior, and it was a very good option. I think it had the most interior options on it, because you could get red, which is a really good combination, black leather, or the Night Sky if you got the right year model. So yeah, so around town, the Stinger is really compliant. It doesn't feel as big as it sort of lends itself to looking. And I think some of that's also attributed to the thinner tires on the front that helps with the maneuverability and just getting around. Its turning circle is pretty impressive at times, it surprises you. And as said, it has all the parking sensors, so those front sensors will pick up if you're about to hit something. And of course you have all the cameras to guard your front bumper, your wheels and things like that. So should be no real excuses. So it's all just handy, and it all just looks after the driver, of course.
In 400 300 meters, red light and speed limit, camera ahead, 20 kilometers per hour speed limit.
And that's one of those funny instances there where the last speed sign at red was a 20 as we've just come out of that park. So, and it knows that
300 meters, red light and speed limit, camera ahead, 60 kilometers per hour speed limit.
And so there it's updated. So it US speed camera was coming, but it just reported on the last speed zone. Now let's go for a run here. If I can get it into, so back into custom mode and up to 100 pretty quickly there. You'd use the paddle shifters just to try and get it to kick down a little bit, but that's okay. And for merging, blind spot monitors and the blind spot cameras can assist with all that. And of course you're getting that exhaust note. Now I'm not entirely sure. Probably some of it is being plumbed in through the cabin, and I do think it sounds better inside the car than outside, but those are things that you can kind of work on and correct, I guess. Of course, some coarse surfaces you just can't escape that they're going to make a lot of noise in the cabin regardless of the tires that you got on. That's just the sort of roads we have here. So, but for the most part, it's, you know, it's a quiet and comfortable experience in here. Yeah, ownership of the Stinger has been really good. I've had it now for just a tad over 3 years. The car itself is about 4 years old, and you know, nothing has really gone wrong with it. And you know, I had an exhaust valve thing go in its second year as we passed the speed camera, and Kia fixed that, no problems. I also had the fading, the weather strips, and again, they fixed those in warranty, although now I've been told that they're not doing that anymore. I guess they must be running low on stock. Thankfully, and if I could find any wood to touch, I would, but mine, since replacement, have maintained their color. Could be because the car is kept garaged and not out in the elements like it was before I bought it from the dealership, so who knows, but we'll keep an eye on that one. The main concern I suppose I have now with the stock car is that there's just a really horrible rattling from the roof. I believe it's the sunroof because it's what everyone else has kind of gone on about. When I did initially bring it up with Kia last year, they said they'd need it for a longer time to have a proper look at it, and it wasn't that big a deal back then. Since then, it's become a bit of a bigger deal. Yeah, you really notice it all the time. The way around it is you turn your radio up, but yeah, it's not the greatest. And I do like a sunroof, and a lot of people say that, you know, they don't for these sorts of reasons. I've never had a problem with sunroofs in my previous cars, so this might just be a Hyundai Kia thing. Aside from that, the car has been great. The tires lasted about as long as I expected them to. We got to about just over 25,000 Ks on the original Pilot Sports, and now we've got the 4S to replace them. And yeah, I think it could be time to start looking at what else can I do with the car. It is fine as it is, but you know, you're always wanting to try and see what else you can do. We've had some good memories with this thing already. Like I said, being able to drive it to Adelaide and back, and it really not missing a beat. Even to the point that we had to sleep in it one night because there was a stuff up with one of the hotels. And okay, it wasn't the most comfortable night we had, but 3 of us were able to sleep in this car, drop the seats down, and we did it. The car did it. The car's also traveled through outback New South Wales and some really ungraded roads, and it just took it all in its stride. So I cannot praise the Stinger enough. Of course, I'm biased because I bought it and I'm driving it and I have to live with it. But honestly, what more could you really want from a Grand Tourer? I think we've taken it to places that you really wouldn't have expected to, and it was just like, it just took it all in its stride. Not only that, and I've mentioned it in my previous videos about the Stinger, we've got some really good communities. The Kia Stingers of Australia group on Facebook is amazing, run by Steve, who's a legend.
He looks after everyone. He started it off as a South Australian only group, and then he's gone nationwide with it. He's organised 2 full national meets where everybody, has come down to Adelaide to have a meet. But in New South Wales, where we are, there's our main group, the Kia Stinger Drivers New South Wales group, and everybody there is more than happy to help out. Really good bunch of people, and I know the other states have their own groups as well. So the community is good, and it's always nice when you get a wave back from another Stinger. Sometimes I get a blank look, but occasionally, and especially lately, I've had a few waves back, and so that's always nice too. Obviously, we've calmed down a bit from our driving through the mountains back there, and as you can see, it really can settle down and just do the mundane stuff, normal highway traveling here at the moment, and everything's fine. So it can wear all the hats, and I really appreciate that about it too, because it is a daily driver. It does the school run and it can do the shopping run, and you don't have any problems with either of those things. You can fit a family in plenty of comfort in here, and all your shopping, and if you want to go on a road trip as well, really likes those sorts of things. It is what it's designed for, and it does it really well. It's kind of a shame that this was Kia's only venture into the Grand Tourer space, but obviously the world changed and everyone wanted to opt for SUVs. But definitely I think we have to applaud Kia for going out there and making this happen.
So those are my thoughts in this 3-year anniversary review of my Kia Stinger GT. It's still a really good car, and it's been going really well. Of course, I'm going to be biased, but I still turn back and look at it, and take pictures of it and admire it. So it's definitely ticking a lot of those boxes. It's probably one of the last of its kind, being that obviously the Stinger isn't produced anymore and Kia haven't built a direct replacement for it. After all, they did go into that EV push. The EV6 was kind of seen as its replacement and successor, but definitely haven't been seeing many of them on the road, and being electric, it's probably not going to win too many Stinger owners over. Whilst there is the cousin in the Genesis G70, those were always priced that little bit higher than the Stinger due to the premium brand status, and they're a dying breed as well. The Genesis G80 is a bigger car again, bigger engine, but I think you'll be up into 6 figures by the time you're looking at one of those. Much the same, the Mercedes C-Class, BMW 340, and the Alfa Romeo Giulia. And by the time you get into the performance variants, you're paying almost $100,000 more than what this was at the time of purchase. I suppose there are things like the Hyundai Sonata N-Line. It's a decent car, it's about the same size, has a few more features too, but you have to like its styling, and it is a front-wheel drive 4-cylinder turbo. Kia's own direct replacement could be seen in the K4, as that's their current sedan, but that's a bit of a styling exercise that you have to get over, and it is a different kind of car. And with the oncoming Chinese brands, I guess there's the MG7, but again, it's a 4-cylinder front-wheel drive car, and at the moment I don't have any idea how that drives, but it does present good value. So, is the Stinger one of the last of those rear-wheel drive sedan formats? It held the torch a little bit with the demise of Commodore and Falcon, but even now, its own light might be dimming. Thankfully, there's lots of owners out there who appreciate them, like myself, and hopefully we'll see them on the roads for some time to come. But what are your thoughts on it? Did you get one? There's probably a really good bargain on these now in the second-hand market, so I think you could do far worse. Or, you follow everyone else and buy the SUVs that pretty much killed cars like this off. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review and found it interesting. I'm going to go off for a drive now, but I will see you very soon in the next one. Until then, stay safe.